is the night of Tasu'ah, and we're approaching increase of severity and difficulty for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and his companions and his family. According to history, tomorrow was the day that supposedly the battle is supposed to happen on the 9th. But Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam asked for extension for one more day, one more night, to spend that night, as the word of Imam Hussein himself is, to recite Quran and to pray. That there is nothing more loved to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein than these two. May Allah inshallah give us the love of His words, Quran, and the love of prayers and salat to be the lights of our guidance and to assure our husn al-aqibah and well-ending of this dunya for the honor of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and his family and his companions. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين العبد المؤيد والرسول المصدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. روحي وأرواحنا وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم: أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدعو اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the honor of Mawlana wa Sayyidina Rasulullah and his immaculate progeny, Ahlul Bayt, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Surah Ma'un was revealed, the occasion of revelation, after an incident between Abu Sufyan and an orphan. And you understand that how a lot of verses of Quran leads back to our topic of conversation. This concept of ma'ad and return, 1/3 of Quran elaborates on this. Sometimes even beautiful form of repetition in order to make sure that we get the message clear. That when it comes to our faith, usul ad-din are 3, right? Usul ad-din and madhab we say is 5. Tawheed, Nubuwwah, and Ma'ad. Adl and Imama, they're from the madhab, which is the right way of Islam, according to our belief. But the usul ad-din are 3. And Ma'ad, that's the way that Quran look at these 3. That 1/3 of Quran, more than 2,000 verse, is about Ma'ad. This is about the return. So the balance in focusing on the principle in Quran is being followed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have that Abu Sufyan used to slaughter 2 camels every week. And imagine at the time that there is no way of refrigerating or keeping these meats, means you have to use all that. 2 camels, and we have that one day an orphan knocked at the door and asked, when you cook at the time, and even right now, sometimes people notice that there is something, and of course this orphan was hungry, knocked at the door and asked for some food. And we have that in an occasional revelation says that he had a cane, a staff. He hid the orphan with the staff. And this surah was revealed. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. First start with this. So did you see the one that denies deen, which yawm ad-din, and the word deen, it's one of the name of the Day of Judgment. Deen refers to rewards and punishment. The day of rewards and punishment, yawm ad-din. Religion is about rewards and punishment as well. So did you see the one who denies life after death, denies judgment day, denies accountability? Because of that, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمَ. Because of that, he is the one who refused to help the orphan. He forces the orphan to go away. So the cause of the Abu Sufyan's behavior according to the Quran is takdhib of Yawm ad-Din, denial of the Day of Judgment. And then even Allah continues, وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. And then Allah talks about prayers as a form of threat of Allah against people who actually pray, but they are not consistent or they're not strict enough with their prayers. They're sahun. Prayers for them is good if they need it. If they're in difficulty, they remember Allah. At ease, they forget. Or vice versa, depending on the character of the person. So in Surah Ma'arij, we came to this ayah, that fi jannatin mukramun, those who will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with grace and honor. First, they are the one who are very strict, very consistent with their prayers, number one. Number two, that they are charitable in their property and wealth that they own. That in their wealth and property, they have a specific amount for the petitioner, for the one who begs, for the one who asks, and for the deprived, the one who doesn't ask, but we know that they are in need. So infaq. Salat and infaq are the two. And the more we talk about these two, the more we understand that the Quran is emphasis on these two concepts, two practices. And as I said in the Surah Ma'un, we see it again, where Allah talks about orphans, feeding miskeen and poor and needy, and talks about prayers. That's the beauty of the word of Allah. The order of Quran, as you know, is not based on the revelation. Sometimes based on the length, sometimes based on other reasons, that the order of the surahs, some of them are Makki, some of them Madani, but regardless, if you look at the chapter who was in the middle of the Quran or the one in the last chapter of last juz of Quran, the message and the focus is the same. You don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God forbid, we're not, never believe in such a way, but we never see that the train of thought, the purpose, the direction is ever being changed in all the 6,236 verses of Quran. It's always consistent. And last night I talked about shafa'ah. And I said in shafa'ah, when we look at Surah Muddathir, Allah said, again, those who don't pray and those who don't give charity, those who don't care for the poor and needy, they are the one that they must have no hope in shafa'ah, because shafa'ah will not be for them. فَمَا تَنْفَعُهُمْ شَفَاعَةُ الشَّافِعِينَ. But it's interesting, what do you think is this next quality? Because we talk about two of them, right? In Surah Muddathir, Allah said that people of heaven will ask people of hell, conversation between them, مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ. Why you're in hell? They answer, قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُمْ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. We did not pray. Number one. Number two, وَلَمْ نَكُنْ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. Number 3 is وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ. Our companionship was with the wrong crowd. We spent time with the wrong people. That our companionship forced us to forget that we have to pray and we have to do charity. And we talked about companionship. We talked about how important one of the causes of regret in the Day of Judgment, according to Quran, are those people who unfortunately had bad friendship. And then the next one in the Surah Mudaththir is وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. I want you to see the connection between different chapters. So the fourth reason we did not qualify for Shafa'ah wasn't accepted in our regards was because we were deniers of the Day of Judgment. كُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. We denied it. In Surah Ma'arij, after في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم, what do you think the next ayah is about? Those who confirm their belief in the Day of Judgment. نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ over there. Here is نُصَدِّق, tasdeeq of يوم الدين. So either you believe in Day of Judgment, you work on that, or you deny the Day of Judgment. And this is not by word, this is not what we say, is ultimately about how we live. How we live. We have somebody came to one of the scholars and ulama of akhlaq and ask for a tip. How can I have more self-control? I understand that what should I do and what should I stay away from, but I cannot force myself, train myself to stick to that. I'm weak. My nafs is weak. Teach me a dua, teach me something that actually can empower my will. Empower my will. And this is his advice. He said, imagine when you're committing a sin that you think that you want, according to your own claim, you don't want to commit that sin. You don't want to do it, but your desires are pushing you. Temptation are pushing you. Imagine a 5-year-old is watching you. Imagine a family member is watching you. Would you still do it? And remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more aware than that 5-year-old and the family member that you could have. If you're able to keep that in mind all the time, that somebody's watching me. This presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always with you. The moment you get to that point, you will never be defeated with your own temptation. Unfortunately, sometimes waswasa of shaitan and the nafs wins, because the nafs become bigger than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's presence in our eye and in our heart. It all goes back to that. It's important to keep that in mind. That religion and faith will not be able to establish itself if there are a lot of obstacles between us and the truth. My personal belief, this is a personal opinion. I don't expect everybody to agree on that. But in my personal opinion is that in our time, in our day and time that we live in, we don't have a shortage of knowledge. It's not that people don't know what's right and what's wrong. We don't have a shortage of awareness. People are aware of the harms around us. Unfortunately, we have a shortage of willpower. Azm, decision to stay away from haram. We don't have that as much. If you ask so many people who unfortunately they promote misguidance, they understand about guidance and misguidance, but their biggest argument against some of the rules of Allah, or when they study Islamic law book, Tawzih al-Masail, Their biggest argument against that is that it's not practical to the time and the place that we live in. It's very complicated. You expect us to eat halal? We know, yeah, halal is good. You say the name of Allah, but it's not practical, At the place we live in is not that many options. So convenience replaces reason. Convenience replaces aqeedah. Which one is more comfortable? Which one is more convenient? Which one is easier? It's not the shortage of knowledge. And if somebody is out there who promote this mentality, they will get a lot of support. Why? Because ideally, it pushes us toward the wrong direction. But when it comes to the desires, it move along to the same direction. And the way religion's supposed to establish itself is that it's going to create limitation. If you like it or not, religion creates limitation. But for our own good. The same way as somebody who has to study, they have to create limitation to be successful. The same way as an athlete who's practicing for a big competition, they have to limit a lot of other activity in order to get to the goal that they have in mind. Religion's purpose is the same one. Is it a claim I made? No, His Quran talks about it. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says it. Is about tazkiyah, right? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. Different form. Tazkiyah is about purification. Question, what is purification? What is purification? Is that you separate impure from pure. The low quality, invaluable from valuable. That's what purifying is. But if you're going to let it be the way it is, there is no tazkiyah. Just keep everything. There is no reason to separate anything from anything. That's no tazkiyah. You ultimately have everything. A jeweler knows this better, right? For example, the one who wants to purify the gold, they have to make sure the trace of any other gold has to be removed in order to have pure gold. Tadhibun nafs or tahdhibun nafs is literally a jeweler term. The word tadhib, dhahab, means gold. When it comes to purifying the nafs, they use a jeweler term because the same process for somebody is to find the gold, to get the gold out of other invaluable metals. For a nafs, for the soul, in order to become valuable and precious to a status that is worthy of a human, you have to purify yourself. And to purify yourself, we need limitation. We have to get rid of something. We cannot be someone who worship our own lust and desire and said, okay, I still will be able to maintain my iman. Anbiya Allah, the prophets of God, usually they're two common jobs that they were basically occupied with, beside prophethood. What are the two jobs for the prophets of God? That they were usually, most of the prophets of God had these two options: shepherd and farmers. Mostly these two: shepherds, farmers. And in both cases, you see that they require a lot of patience. And by the way, it's highly recommended to do these two if you can, especially farming. It helps you. It teaches you patience. A farmer knows that when you plant a seed, you can't expect to have the result tomorrow or the next week. Sometimes it takes them months or years to get the result. You learn patience with that problem. And also you remember that sometimes you have to rely on Allah. You plant the seed, you prepare the land, you do everything, then you wait for the rain. Even if you have to, get the water from the government and all that, still you need some form of water source. You don't want the government to pull the plug on you and say, okay, your crops is too expensive to invest in, and okay, let it die. So still they have to count on something more than their own measurement. That's the life of a true mu'min. You do everything. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ, you make a decision. فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. But even after that decision, still you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ali as-Salam in Nahjul Balagha said, one of the ways that I found Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was faskhil azaim. When I saw my strong, well-researched decision were cancelled, I remembered that there is a power beyond my power. That I'll do everything, I'll plan properly, but something happens that I cannot go to the end of that decision. Faskhil azaim made me believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So speaking of farming, there is this concept that if you want to plant anything and you have the ground, right? The first thing you have to do is to make sure there is no weeds growing and where you're planning to plant a tree or any other form of crops. You have to get rid of them first. Sometimes they ask you even put some vinegar to make sure that the weeds die at the roots, right? So if you know a bit about gardening, you understand that before doing something, before planting the seed, there is a process of preparation. Then you bring the seed and then you plant the seed. One is to get rid of all the weeds. Number two, you have to make sure the ground is suitable for farming. Sometimes the soil is not suitable for farming, is not nutritious enough, is sometimes mixed with cement and some other artificial substances that they're not going to let you grow anything. So you have to make sure that the soil is suitable for farming. And sometimes literally you have to go through the process of creating a suitable soil that is it has a nutrition, but you have to make sure that the oxygen reaches the roots of the future, the one that you have planned to grow. And Allah compares human being as well as that as well. That we are like a land. Our amal is what we are planting in this land. This dunya is a land that we plant. Ad-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. Literally the comparison by the Prophet is, this dunya is the farm for your akhirah. What you plant, the time of harvest will be waiting for you. But what are the weeds that we have to get rid of? Again, it's important to focus on those aspects of religion as well. I will, inshallah, tomorrow night talk about Nahjul Balagha. Imam alayhi salam beautifully said that sometimes a knowledgeable and ignorant and the rich and the poor, they are influencing one another. That sometimes a knowledgeable pushes ignorant to stay in ignorance. Sometimes poor pushes the poor to divulge themselves in some form of misguidance and sin because of their irresponsibility. So I will talk about that tomorrow night. But it's important to understand that sometimes everything we do, it affects our religion, it affects our society, it affects our family, and it must make us more cautious about what we do. So Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam said, Sittatun la takuna fil mu'min. You cannot find 6 diseases, 6 plagues in the life of a believer. A faithful person, a mu'min, will not have these 6. These are the weeds that we have to get rid of. I say that this topic because last night we talked about salat, we talked about infaq. Sometimes the greatest obstacle between us and our morning prayers are these 6 issues. Because when we commit a sin, Allah takes away tawfiq, the chance. We believe in that. That every sin, unfortunately, creates some form of barrier between you and the next good things that you want to do. The more the sin, the more continuous and the more habitual the sins are, the more difficult will be for you to enjoy the good. So that's a hypothetical question people ask. Sheikh, you talk about salat, you talk about charity. We know all that. But why I cannot pray, why I don't enjoy the prayers? I literally got a text message a while ago. Somebody said, my wife just came to me and said, Sheikh, I don't enjoy prayers. Came to the husband and said, I don't enjoy prayers anymore. I don't find any benefit in prayers. What should I say? I wasn't able to answer because literally I don't know what to say. We can say, no, prayer is mi'rajul mu'min, is the ascension of the believer, it's a light, is the light of the eye of the Prophet, is what awliya Allah feels is a private session between their beloved, which is Allah. I can say all that, but for somebody who never tasted it, is not going to make any sense. And sometimes the reason we end up in that place is that sin becomes so prominent in our lives that there is no place for obedience of Allah. You heard this hadith. Al-qalbu haramullah, right? The temple of Allah, if you could call it the haram or the shrine of Allah, is your heart. فَلَا تَسْكَنْ فِي حَرَمِ اللَّهِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Don't let anyone else to live in this place beside Allah. And we have in tradition that Allah cannot exist in the heart of somebody who have their own desires or shaitan present. There's either a place for one or another. And the reason you see this pattern of change in people, they become good and bad, is not because they're both present. No. Sometimes Allah is able to find its place, take over, and sometimes the shaitan take it back. The desires take it back. It's a switching side. It's not that within the heart we have both present. Both cannot exist. One take over, one take the charge. And that's our decision. We let which one to take the charge. The responsibility is with us to make sure we empower Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to do that, get rid of these issues. Imam as-Sadiq said, 6, you cannot find these 6 diseases in the life of a mu'min. Some of them I discussed previous nights. I'm not going to elaborate on those. Some of them are part of the hadith that we have to understand a bit. The first one, Imam alayhi salam said, that you cannot find in the life of a mu'min is an-nakad. Nakad in Arabic means fruitless, khairless. Those that they have no benefit for others. You cannot find a mu'min to have nakad. Means if there's somebody that always, they're a leech, they're always a burden on other people's shoulder, you can't ever count on them. They expect good from other people, but you can't expect any khair and good from them. They're not mu'min. Abu Abdullah Hussein, look at him. That enemy come for water. The one who stopped his path, blocked his path from getting to his destination. But when they ask for water, they know Hussein alayhi salam, he is the truest embodiment of iman. He's going to share water regardless. Regardless. Ibn Muljam, the same one who eventually comes and commit the greatest crime, Ashqal Ashqiya, Rasulullah called him, the most miserable and the most wicked of mankind, to commit the murder and the shahada of Amir al-Mu'minin by his hand. He was raised by Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam's hand himself. Naked cannot be fine in the life of mu'min. And so many tradition talks about this. That if you are looking for the best of mu'mineen, the best of mankind, anfa'uhum linnas, the most beneficial to mankind is the best one. And we recite Surah Insan. We admire Ahlul Bayt. We admire Imam Ali salam's family, Hazrat Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha's family, and you see what they say after they're helping miskeen, yatim, asir, orphan, captive, poor, knock at the door, they share their only meal with them. And then they say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى If as a community, as a society, we get this ayah and we practice this ayah properly, I promise you that will be the greatest way of da'wah, invitation toward Allah and the school of Ahlul Bayt. If we follow this ayah properly, that when we actually give, we did it for the sake of Allah. We don't expect any form of reward, any payback, any thank you, any appreciation from you. We did it for Allah. لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. That's the opposite side of naked. Some people, they don't do any good and they're always in a position that others owe them something. They're always they're in that defensive position. Even when they talk to ulama, I've heard people talk about Sistani ulama. The tone is a tone of somebody who literally gave something and now they expect something in return. What Sistani did? What that marja did? Why they're not doing this and not doing that? And they are the same people who, according to their own words, they don't pay 1 penny because they don't believe in it. But they feel that they are in a position to say things which are, again, sometimes we have valid question, respectfully. You ask, sometimes no, it's just disrespect, it's an insult. Because you don't know the answer, because you did not read about it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. This is spirit, unfortunately, in our community, sometimes they have the louder voice as well. That there's no khair, but they are in a position that they demand khair from other people. I don't do any khair myself, right? Don't call me for anything. But the moment I have problem, I demand. What kind of a Muslim community you are that you don't do anything? Your Muslim brother and sister is in need and you're quiet about it. And in our iman, even that person who never helped, in our ideology, we help them. That's the way it should be. Because we do it for Allah, not for them. So that's the first you cannot find in life of mu'min, nakad. Being khairless, pointless, fruitless. The one that nobody can count on them on anything. And to fight that, always do good without expectation, my dear brothers and sisters. If you want to be somebody who enjoy khair, the advice of Ali ibn Abi Talib is clear. Always remember favors of others to you and forget your favors to others. Then you will be in the path of khair and good all the time. Number 2, that you cannot find in the life of mu'min, Imam as-Sadiq said, al-usr. You will not be able to find usr and difficulty in the life of a mu'min. In other words, mu'min is not a difficult person. What I mean by difficult people, some people, it's not easy to talk to them. It's not easy to talk to them. It's not easy to ask for help from them. It's not easy to ask them, a favor. They're difficult people. Usr. One example is buhlul or bahlul. That we have that a man came to him and said, Bahlul, these are a couple of walnuts. Please, pray for me. I'm going to give these walnuts and pray for me. So we have that. He got the walnuts, he cracked it in front of him, and he started enjoying it, eating it, without even saying a thank you. You have that person was surprised and said, I think you forgot something. Bon appetit. You ate the walnut, good. But where's my dua? And he's a man who's, from many stories you heard about him, he's teaching. He's making a point. So the moment I cracked the walnut, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heard the noise and that cracking noise. The moment he heard the noise, you got the thawab, you got the reward. Even if I don't pray. Don't put difficulty on people when you do a favor, when you do them a favor. Sometimes you request, sometimes you demand. That's different between request and demand. We give something for our marhumin, right? Did you hear any in the riwayah said, okay, when you give sadaqah, demand the poor to recite something for your dad? Any riwayah. You give your money, and that poor family is a Muslim family, they know Quran, please recite a juz of Quran for my dad. You don't see it. The reason you're helping them is because they are in problem. They're facing difficulty in life, so don't add another difficulty in their lifetime. The moment they pray for you, the moment they receive your help, that's the thawab you get. A mu'min does not create additional difficulty. Difficulty is what's not Allah's command. It's more than that. Sometimes Allah's command we cannot negotiate on that. Oh, it's a time of prayers, don't take it. No, it's a prayer time. We have to pray. I cannot negotiate. It's not my right to negotiate if it's difficult or easy. But sometimes it's nothing to do with that. We create literally sometimes a lot of formalities for somebody to talk to us. Oh, you want to talk to me? Please call my secretary. They're going to make you an appointment and do this and that happen. And I see if I have empty spot for you. It's just make it complicated. And I've heard people even advise me to do that. Sheikh, do that, please. So why? So if you give it for free, people don't appreciate it. If you're easy, people take advantage, misuse it, and they use the story of Quran when Allah said with the Prophet and asking people to give sadaqah to ask question. But what they lost is that was the Prophet of God. We make it overcomplicated. Overcomplicated. So you cannot find that. Quran said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yuridu bikum al-yusr wa la yuridu bikum al-usr. When is that ayah about? And by the way, you'll be surprised that ayah of Quran unfortunately is being ignored by some Muslims. The ayah is about fasting. Then Allah said when you're traveling, when you're sick, make up other times. Another time you're going to fast. And Allah said because Allah's intent toward you is ease. Allah doesn't want to create hardship for you. That's the reason when you're traveling and when you're sick, there is this exception for you. And there are Muslims saying, no, still we do it. For us, that's the command of Allah. Under 10 days, when it comes to the sickness that is harmful to your health to fast, it says you cannot fast. You must not fast. And Allah said, why is that? Waswas, my dear brothers and sisters, people who suffers from waswas, some of them, they need to talk to a psychologist. A young man came to me and said, Sheikh, when I do ghusl, it takes me 15 times. 15 times to make sure that now this ghusl is fine. Imagine how much water is wasted, how much time is wasted. And I told him, I said, I know you said it's not in my control. I want to stop, but I can't. Something telling me is not right. Something telling me this is not correct. And I say, if you're past the time that my advice is not going to help you, talk to a professional. You need help. It's a compulsive disorder. You need help. Because when you are going through with waswas, you're not following Allah's command because Allah said to do it one time. The other 14 times is not from Allah. So you're not definitely following Allah. You're following something else. So make sure in every matter, waswas, even within religion, is not permissible. And unfortunately, I don't know what is the reason. Maybe because of my position of people calling me, that I hear so many people suffering from it. Brothers and sisters, men and women, elders and youth, who suffers from some form of compulsive disorder. I don't know why. Even in the form of prayers. So there's no justification to suffer from that waswas, from that compulsive disorder. And you call it, I do it for Allah. You're not doing it for Allah. Allah doesn't want difficulty for you. That's not the plan. So that's number 2. 6, Imam as-Sadiq said, 6 plagues, disease, flaws you cannot find in a mu'min. Mu'min, get rid of these first, then iman will find its place, will establish itself. Nakad, to be fruitless, to be khairless. Number 2, to be difficult, unnecessarily difficult. Don't be difficult with your children. Let them talk to you. As an Islamic point of view, father must have the authority of a father. We're not ignoring that. You must have that. Mother must have that kindness and compassion. But nowhere in Islam said when your son, your daughter wants to talk about a sensitive issue, said don't talk about it. They're uncomfortable topic that we have to talk. Maybe not in front of younger children, maybe in private, but still we have to talk about it. Unfortunately, there's this idea that sometimes sweeping under the rug means solution. If we don't talk about it, it's going to be a result. When in reality, sometimes you have to talk about the problem, seek advice from professionals, seek from you yourself have to educate yourself to be able to help your children. It's not easy. It requires time. It requires patience. It requires to listen to unpleasant things, but you have to listen. I cannot tell how many times I've heard parents said, when something happens, unfortunately, sometimes is with the cost of the health and well-being of the child. When they come and say, Sheikh, I never knew my child is suffering from this. My son was a good son. He was a good boy. Or my daughter was such a nice girl. And I can't believe that she or he did this. And I tell them, the reason you're so naive is because you decided to be that way. You look at the other way. And there's no exception between boys and girls in the matter of tarbiyah. They're different from tarbiyah, but unfortunately when it comes to our culture, if the boys commit the sin, it's not a big deal as a boy, right? But God forbid if the girls does something. She brought the shame for the family. Tarbiyah is for boys and girls. Yes, unfortunately in our communities, maybe the society, the culture does not look as negatively to the boy's mistake, but Allah will blame you and will hold you accountable for the failure of your son as much as your daughter, even if the community doesn't. Al-usra, difficulty. The third one, Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam said, al-lajaja. The third you cannot find in the life of a mu'min is stubbornness, creating dispute, troublemakers. Lajaja is troublemaker. The one that wherever they are, some form of conflict will rise with them. Because they are hard-headed, is my way or no way. Even if it's over non-important issues, they will not give up their position. We were speaking about today, a brother came to me. That's the reason, if you have sometimes a feedback that could help me, please talk to me. A brother told me, said, do you talk about shafi', being intercessor in marriage to introduce people, and you said some of the issues in that, but I failed to address another issue. That one issue I address is that sometimes as people we don't do shafa'ah, we don't introduce people because we're afraid of the consequences. And sometimes maybe people, if they end up getting divorced or having problem, they blame us for that introduction. Oh, why you introduced this girl or boy? They were not good people. So I said we should not pay attention. And I said Rasulullah's story and Quran's story from that aspect as well. We do our part. The other part this brother brought to my attention was that sometimes the Shafi' introduces someone and the people, they look at it and they don't like the case for whatever reason. It could be very shallow reason. They don't like maybe the look of that person, or it could be some other reason. For example, Sheikh Modarres, this person, for example, could be a good son-in-law or a good daughter-in-law for you. I did not do this. That family, they said, oh, we appreciate, but we're not going to accept. This person is not the right choice. We have that the Shafi get upset. The one who introduces get upset that why you don't listen to me. You have to trust me. I did not know this existed, by the way. Because I look at it from my perspective, I never get upset. If you don't like it, that's the way it is. And that's not unfortunately in regard of marriage. It happens in other aspects of life as well. We get upset over matters that is, for example, sometimes people who do work within the community. You could be a real estate agent. You could be a business owner. You could be, holding so many different job titles. And sometimes when you ask the same person from the community to do it, they show you a house, for example, and you don't like the house. I know this person actually told me. So we went and saw the house, and we didn't like it. That was not our ideal house. The real estate agent, which was a Muslim Shia brother from our community, got upset and said, you don't trust me. Do you think I lied to you? This is the best option for you. I said, we really appreciate, of course we trust you, but this is not, what we had in mind. We looked, and he literally told me, I said, you have to leave it to me. I'm not going to make a, bad decision for you. Give me the responsibility. I'll buy the best house for you. And imagine if you're in that position, what are you going to do? That's the unfortunate part. That we sometimes entitle ourselves to do something and to take over responsibility and even decision making because we are from the same faith. My dear brothers and sisters, rejection must be okay. If you go for marriage and they said no, that should be perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with your son that they said no. Sometimes not the right match, that's it. In Islam, we talk about sha'an, we talk about kuf. They should be from the same status. They should be a right match. Then it will work out. If somebody said no, please don't say anything. Oh, their girl has some issues. That's the reason they said no to our son. And opposite as well. That somebody go for marriage, they consider somebody to be the right person. Maybe the boy and the girl talk and they end up making a decision that we're not the right match. That should be okay. With a contingency that you're not taking advantage of that. I know someone did it after 2 years of engagement, and after 2 years said, oh, we're not the right match. So it's 2 years. What have you been doing for the last 2 years? You should have been making that decision earlier. So not taking advantage of the position, but at the same time, we should be okay with rejection. Lajaja and stubbornness is that no, is my way. You have to take this boy. This is the only son-in-law you will find. And even sometimes I've heard people make curse, nafreen. My son is the best son. He's going to Yasin. He's this, he's that. And if you don't say yes to this son, I don't know. I pray to Allah, and you will be surprised. And by the way, don't be afraid of people's nafreen. Let them do as much as they want. It's not going to work. If you curse in general, is not going to affect somebody who has nothing to do with it. They did Amir al-Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam sab 70 years on the member of Prophet. Do you think it affected Ali ibn Abi Talib's status? Let them, those who want to do it, let them do it. Walk away from them. One more thing is about Sayyid and non-Sayyid marriage. I know in some cultures this is lajaj as well. There is no hadith that said it's haram for a sayyid to marry non-sayyid from the boy's side or girl's side. There is no hadith. When there's no hadith, it means it's not part of a religion. It's not forbidden. What it is that if you marry somebody from the family of Rasulullah, make sure to honor them more. That's the only thing it is. That's it. We made a nadr. Nadr has to be logical. Such a nadr, such a pact with God has no application. It's batil. Before my child was born, I made the niyyah that he or she has to marry a sayyid. No. You cannot make such a nadr for your child. Have no application. I know some cultures exist. You can, make nadrs about yourself and your life, but not about your child's life. There's no application. The fourth one, Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam said, is al-hasad. I talk about this jealousy. A mu'min cannot be jealous. They get rid of jealousy at its roots. That's number 4. Number 5, so there's 6. Number 5, Imam alayhi salam said, al-baghi. Aggression. Baghi is introduction to dhulm. In Quran, Allah talks about baghi and dhulm. Some of the ulama said, the tafsir said the difference is baghi is when you make intention to transgress, to do something wrong, to hurt somebody, to steal someone's right, to hurt someone. Dhulm is when it happens. After completion of baghi, dhulm takes place. But baghi is at the beginning. Means when you intend to do dhulm. Just at the plotting level, planning level. If somebody said, I'm planning to do dhulm, that's what baghi is. When it happens, in action, that's what dhulm is. A mu'min will not have baghi, forget about dhulm. A mu'min never even goes to the planning of doing dhulm. Aggression. So based on this hadith, so many, unfortunately, family issues, so many different forms of verbal and physical abuse is very clear that somebody who's a mu'min will not be involved in any form of abuse. May Allah inshallah protect our families, which is an unfortunate part of the reality of the time that we live in, and it was in the past. It is a prominent issue of different form of abuse. Verbal, physical, mental. And the biggest, unfortunately, price is being paid by the children. Children who live in such families, they are the one who, unfortunately, they pay the highest price. Recital salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And the last one, so that's baghi, number 5. And the last one, Imam alayhi salam said, you cannot find in a mu'min is al-kidhb, lying. As Prophet himself said, that a mu'min cannot be a liar. Truthfulness, sidq, is everything of our iman. We have that structure of our iman, and religion is based on sidq and ada'ul amana. Two things is the way that religion stands by it. Truthfulness and returning people's trust. If you fail on these two, you're breaking the most important structure. The mainstay of our religion are these two. And Imam Sallallahu said, if somebody is a liar, there is no iman in that. And I finish, inshallah, with saying that I pray that we, inshallah, not a liar to call ourselves Shia of Ahlul Bayt. You heard this story. So, in summary again, we talk about those who will meet Allah with grace, salat, prayers, when it comes to charity and when it comes to having a part of their wealth for the mahroom, for the sa'il. And then I said to establish iman, we have to get rid of the obstacles between us and establishment of iman. And Imam as-Sadiq said there are 6 issues. There's 6 flaws that we have to fill, we you have to get rid of in order for iman to take place. But the lying part, a group of people of Khurasan we have, that they came to visit Imam Rida alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And they asked for permission to visit Imam Rida alayhi salam. And they said, tell Imam Rida that a group of his Shia from Khurasan came all the way just to visit him. They want to see him. So we have that the servant went and returned and said, Imam alayhi salam said, cannot see you today. They returned the second day, asked for the same thing again to visit Imam, and they got the same rejection. Third day. And after multiple time of not being granted to visit the Imam, they understood that there's something going on. So they begged the servant to ask Imam to give him a chance. That tell us what we did wrong, that why Imam alayhi salam doesn't let us see him. And Imam eventually let them, granted them the permission. They came, and after saying salam to the Imam, the first question they asked was, why you did not accept to meet us the first day? And Imam alayhi salam said, because the first time you came, you said that a group of our Shia came. And I know that you're far away from being a Shia. You're not a follower. But you are our muhibbin. You love us. In that you're truthful. If you call yourself our muhib, you say the truth. But to be our Shia, it must show itself in your life. In the way you make money, in the way you live and deal with your family, with your enemies, the way you spend your days and night. That's what the Shia is being recognized by their action, not their words. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're truthful in our claim to love Hussein alayhi salam, to be truthful in the claim of following of the path of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and his companions. And we know who's the most truthful companion of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Tonight is the night of Tasu'ah. Usually a lot of majalis, they dedicate that program to Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, a man that his truthfulness was evident in his action. When you look at the ziyarah of Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, Assalamu alayka ya Abu al-Fadl Abbas, Assalamu alayka ayyuha al-abdu salih, al-muti' lillahi wa li rasulih. Salam and peace be upon Abu al-Fadl Abbas, that servant of Allah who was a reformer, who was righteous. And he was obedient of Allah and His Messenger and Amir al-Mu'mineen and his brother Hussein. That if he claimed he loves Hussein, he loves Rasulullah, you cannot see even one time Abu al-Fadl Abbas goes against the command of Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and especially Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Ya Allah, help us to learn from Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Have the same bravery of Abu al-Fadl Abbas to stand by the truth, to defend the truth, even if it costs our own hands. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifna'ik عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحابه. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس. السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله ولأمير المؤمنين ولأخيك الحسين عليه السلام. Remember the hadith, من بكى أو أبكى أو تباكى للحسين. The reward and the thawab was promised for the one who can cry, who can recite and make others cry, or if you cannot do either, at least have that attitude of crying. Have the attitude, even if you cannot cry, but have that attitude. Put your head down. The same way that we have, for smiling and laughing, that sometimes even a fake laughter trick the brain. Imagine, this is the hadith of Imam al-Ma'soom that said, if you have that attitude of a mourner, an attitude of somebody's in grief, we see that, and even we reward you for that. And tonight is the night of the grief of a man that his loss has one of the greatest impact on the life of Hussein. Two people, according to the Maqtal, they created the greatest amount of pain for Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. One was last night Ali al-Akbar, and one is Qamar Bani Hashim, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. On the day of Ashura, he came and he never called Imam al-Hussein by the brother title. He always called him Sayyidi wa Mawlai, my master, my leader, my Mawla. That's the muti' lillah wa li Rasul is. On the day of Ashura was no exception. He came and said, Ya Sayyidi wa Ya Mawlai, you know my title is Saqqa, I'm the provider of the water. And I see your children are suffering. I see that they look at these empty leather bags of water and they are seeking water. Give me permission to, because Imam didn't give him permission to fight. He said, give me at least permission to bring water. Then Imam alayhi salam said, my brother Abbas, go bring water. He's the one who holds the flag. He's the alamdar. And the symbol is when the flag, when the alam falls, that's the moment that you know that the defeat happens. That was the culture of the Arabs since the time of Rasulullah. So we have that Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam went toward Furat. Enemies, they surrounded him. But the bravery of Abbas is well known. If you look at every Maqtal, Tabari, Mas'udi, all the old Maqtal, you will see that one thing that nobody can deny is that when Abbas alayhi salam is going to battle, enemies have no ability to face him. That when we have that Abu al-Fadl Abbas came to the Furat, enemies scattered, ran away. He reached the water. And that's the moment of manner of Abbas. He came down from the horse, he filled the leather bags with water, and now he's thirsty. Again, it's part of Maqta. The moment he brought the water with his hands close to her lips, he drops the water. He didn't drink from the water out of the adab to Sayyid al-Shuhada and the family of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Now he's facing Imam al-Husayn's camp. He has the leather bag on his shoulders. And the enemy who's watching him from distance, that they saw Abbas has the water. They got the order from Umar ibn Sa'd that anything happens, Abbas should not be able to take back water to Husayn's camp. We will lose this battle. And we have that Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam is marching and leading the horse toward the camp. And we have that one of the enemy came from the back and cut the hand of Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. But that moment is not the moment of hopelessness of Abbas. He got the leather bag on another shoulder and he's reciting, Wallah in qata'tumu yamini inni uhami abadan an dini. If you cut all the hands of Abbas, you cut the hand of Abbas, I will not leave to protect the religion. My faith and imaan is what's more important to me than the hand of Abbas. He's still continuing his path when his second hand was also a strike and cut. He got that leather bag by his tooth. Still Abbas has hope that this water will reach Hussein and the promise of Abbas will be fulfilled. That I told Hussein that Abbas will bring water. Until the moment that arrow created that moment and scenery for Abbas, that Abbas alayhi salam lost the hope. When the water started falling on the ground, this is the moment Abbas alayhi salam said, Ya Allah, how can I go back to the camp of Hussein? And we have, this part of the musibah. Imam of our time is the one who recited this musibah in ziyarah by Imam of our time. Said when somebody falls from a height, usually they use their hand to block and to reduce the effect of the impact. But when our uncle Hussein, when our uncle Abbas was on the horse and they struck him on his head and he fell down from the horse, he hit the ground with his face. At that moment, the call of Abbas rose, Ya akha adrik akhak. That's the first time Abbas called Hussein brother after years. Brother, call. I'm calling you brother. Hussein, come for your brother. We have that Imam al-Hussein rushed toward Abu al-Fadl Abbas and Alqama. He forced the enemy. He backed up the enemy. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he arrived to the body of Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, the body that has no hand. He picked up the head of Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam and said, my brother Abbas, Al-an qad ingazara dhahri wa qallad hilati. My brother Abbas, look at enemies, how they look at Hussein. Now they see that I have no more brother with me. This is the moment that the back of Hussein is broken. From such a son is from such a mother. When they brought the news of Shahada of children of al-Banin, 4 sons of al-Banin, which is mother of the sons, they brought the news back to Medina and they said, al-Banin, you heard what happened to your sons, that you have no more sons anymore? You know what was the answer of that mother? From such a mother, you see Abbas is being the one with the tarbiyah of such mother. She said, Kullu awladi wa ma tahta al-khadra fida al-Husayn. All my children, all the creatures on the earth may be sacrificed for Husayn. وَأَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the Honorable Fadl Abbas, Ya Kashif al-Karb an wajh al-Husayn, Ishfi karbi bihaq al-Husayn. May Allah, inshallah, by the Honorable Fadl Abbas, don't leave our hands to be empty in such a night, especially our first and most important dua, the ta'jeel and the hasten in the return of Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Inshallah, everybody stand up, we prepare for Latmiya, and inshallah organize your lines for the ta'jeel of the faraj and the return and the haste in the return of Imam of our time. Please recite the salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.